क्या हो गया? So everybody is there? No, this one is absent. Arey, Poddar is absent. No, you are there. Ah, she is there. Used to sit here, no? Who is absent? Somebody is absent, but one girl is absent.
She came, but then she went away.
Why?
She had a family function.
Arey, baapre. Good, all good. Narrowly from the morning lectures, no? But मजा आता था ना सुबह सुबह पढ़ने के लिए. क्यों?
समर वैकेशन में होता है.
तो कहाँ पे गए? ऐसे मॉरिशस गए थे? अरे. Back to evening lectures. Happy now? Soham, how are you? Good. School reopened already? When? June. अरे July. June 8? 8. So what we started was genetics, I think. No, we started with that chapter already. Homework दिया था मैंने. हाँ, she is the only honest girl in the class. अभी सब लोग तुमको मारेंगे देखना लेक्चर के बाद. जो होमवर्क याद दिलाता है ना, सबको सबको मार पड़ता है. अब देखो, अभी सबसे पहले तो ये तुमको करने वाली है. हाँ, तन्मयी ने नहीं किया होगा होमवर्क. What homework I gave you? Volume का worksheet है ना? Of which chapter? The previous one was transpiration का. I'm going to check. ये तो common excuse, पुराना excuse है. अगर 2022 का नया excuse दो. ये तो हम लोग को कहती है स्टूडेंट्स. मैं I did but I left it on my table.
You can ask questions from us.
You think I'm going to waste my time doing all that now?
No. I was reminded first.
अच्छा, ऐसा है. Okay. तो आजकल भी कोई सच बोलता है. हाँ. और तुम विलेज से आए, अभी याद भी है कि ये मैं बायोलॉजी टीचर हूँ. याद है ना? So we are.
I was absent. I'll do it.
हाँ, करो. Complete करो. Those of you have done. I'm going to check your work. I'm going to put a signature there. जब PTM में आओगे ना, पेरेंट्स के साथ घूमते घामते हमसे मिलने के लिए, at that time I'm going to take all हिसाब. The parents should not get the shock of their lives when the results are declared. Keep doing your work. Keep doing your work regularly. How are you? Good now? Now. So, we are done with chapters, that is cell structure, chromosome, cell division, transpiration, no, absorption by roots, transpiration. We are done with this read. What is the next test on which chapter?
Absorption.
When it is this coming Sunday? This Sunday. Absorption by roots, no? Okay. Any doubts on that? Anything to clarify? Anything to ask? No? Such? Pakka? So I'm going to take an oral test, last 5 minutes. Chalega Prashansa? Okay, chalo. चलेगा कि नहीं? तुम ना बोलोगे तो I'll not take. Is it okay? हाँ? Yes, ma'am. तन्मय is saying no. तन्मय का मैं नहीं सुनने वाली. वो तो फिर सारा साल ना ही बोलेगी. वो कभी भी हाँ नहीं बोलेगी. We'll study genetics first, and the last 5-10 minutes I'll take oral test on that chapter because it's not possible to give a written test right now. So let us start with the concept of genetics. एक बार textbook दिखाना. So, us try to study these topics today. First of all, we start with chromosomes. What are chromosomes? Now, this word chromosomes not new to you at all. You already have studied a lot about this word chromosomes. How did we define this word chromosome?
Highly coiled, thick, and condensed form of chromatin fiber.
Chromatin fiber. So now, when we start with this concept of chromosomes, what did we study earlier was, I may talk about a cell, and in the nuclear region I come across that the condensed form of the chromatin fiber, which more or less we may expect in a mature cell which is in the process of division, and that is what we talk about as chromosome. Okay. Now, to understand that this chromosome, first of all, we look into this concept of that this chromosome, what are its types, number, and with reference to human we are first of all trying to study. Now, ये जो chromosome है, first of all, ये concept हमेशा याद रखना है. This chromosome in our cells, they are always in this manner. They are always paired. The chromosomes that we talk about are always paired. Now, how many such pairs we generally have in our cell? We have almost, we have about 46 pairs. No, we have full 23 pairs, that is 46 such chromosomes we have. Now, this type of pairing that we have in our cells, this type of pairing that we see in our chromosome, what is this known as? This is what is known as homologous chromosome. This also you have come across. What is the meaning of this homologous chromosome? Homologous chromosome means a pair of chromosomes where there is one chromosome coming from the mother and there is one chromosome coming from the father. So that is what we are talking about as a maternal copy and a paternal copy. So in this chromosome also I may say, in any of these I may say, yes, this is the maternal copy and this is the paternal copy resulting in the formation of a pair. But can I say that this is the 6th and this is the 9th chromosome? No, the 6th and the 6th, the 9th and the 9th, and the 12th and the 12th, and the 20th and the 20th will always make a pair. So if I have to talk about this is the 1st and the 1st. This is the 12th and the 12th. That is how the pairing happens. Why? Because the sequence of nucleotides and everything would be the same. That's why. So now I'm saying that this pattern of arrangement of the chromosome in pairs, the entire sequencing or the entire sequence of chromosome pairs, right, start from the 1st to the 23rd. This entire pairing of the chromosome, the entire sequence of the paired chromosome, that is what is known as karyotype. That is what is known as karyotype. What is karyotype? Karyotype is the arrangement of the paired chromosome. The arrangement of the paired chromosome. So that is what we are talking about. Karyotype, the arrangement of the pairs of the chromosome. We never come across in any of our cells that the chromosomes are ever single present. No, the chromosomes are always paired and paired and paired and paired. So when we are talking about the arrangement of the paired chromosome, so that is what we are trying to understand, the arrangement of paired chromosomes. And how many pairs? Now we understand 23 such pairs are there. But when we are talking about that these chromosomes, can we talk about their types? Can they be divided into types or is it the same all over? No, these chromosomes can be divided into types. Certain types are. Then which are the types of the chromosomes we have to come across? To talk about the types here, we may see that these chromosomes that we are talking about, they may generally be considered into two types. These paired chromosomes that we are talking about can be divided into two types. Which are the two types and how can they be divided? These two types that we are talking about, one type is known as the autosomes. One type of chromosome known as autosomes. Which pairs are we talking about? From the 1st to the 22nd pair. From the first to the 22nd pair. So how many chromosomes are we talking about? 44 chromosomes. So we are talking about from the first to the 22nd pair, all these chromosomes are known as autosomes. Chromosomes first to the 22nd pair, all of them are known as autosomes. And what are these chromosomes generally regulating? They are all regulating the somatic characters. What is the meaning of somatic characters now? Somatic characters means the body characters, or somatic characters may be that these are majorly responsible for the structure, function of every particular organ apart from the reproductive organs. That means these chromosomes would carry information associated with the structure, function of the stomach and the liver and the maybe the bone and the muscle and the brain, etc., but not the reproductive organs. These chromosomes will not carry any information associated with the reproductive organs. Then what about the reproductive organs? They will be regulated by another set of chromosomes. And what are those chromosomes called? Those chromosomes are called the allosomes, also known as the sex chromosomes. Then which pair of chromosomes are we talking about here? The allosomes. We are talking about the 23rd pair. We are talking about the 23rd pair. So this 23rd pair of chromosome that we are talking about is known as the allosome, also known as the sex chromosome, and it will carry all information associated with the function, structure, development, maturation, etc., associated with the reproductive organs only. Meaning, this pair of chromosome, which will again have hundreds and hundreds of genes, this pair of chromosome will only be capable of regulating functions of the reproductive organ, but not regulate the function of the stomach, liver, intestine. And these chromosomes will have information to regulate functions of the stomach, liver, muscle, bone, not of the reproductive organ. Am I clear? So allosomes and autosomes. So how many pair we are talking about? One pair, 2 chromosomes. So we are only talking about the 23rd pair. Now that we are talking about the 23rd pair, something more to remember, this 23rd pair in the male and the female is not the same. This 23rd pair in the male and the female is not the same. So this 23rd pair, now that I talk about, in the male, how is it? And in the female, how is it? So when we are talking about this 23rd pair in the male, this 23rd pair in the male, it would be X and Y. And the 23rd pair in the female, it would be X and X. So the 23rd pair in the male would have 2 dissimilar chromosomes, one X and one Y. And in the female, you would have 2 similar chromosomes, one X and another X. So now, when we are talking about the male and the female, the same 23rd chromosome is not the same. But yes, the genes or the segments or the information that is present in this chromosome will regulate the reproductive characters. So how many types of chromosomes? First of all, we try to understand. We have got 2 types of chromosomes. One is known as the autosome, which regulates all the somatic characters. And these allosomes, then what is their function? They regulate all the reproductive or germinal characters. They regulate all the reproductive characters. Various different type of reproductive characters that we may summarize. So this is first of all to understand the types. Now, as already I said the number. So now something more to understand, that if I talk about a cell of the male reproductive organ and a cell of the female reproductive organ, then how would they differ? Would they differ or would they remain the same? No, they would differ. Something like, I may talk about a cell of cell of the male reproductive organ. I'm talking about a cell of the testis. Testis is the male reproductive organ. Here I want to write what is the total number of the autosome and the total number of the allosome. What will I write? Okay, this stands for autosome. And I write down, since I have written here male, so what should I write? X and Y. So I am writing autosome and X and Y. In terms of numbers, what should I write? Autosomes total how many? 44. This total how many? 2. So total becomes 46 chromosome in the cell of the testis. But yes, if I talk about in the male body, of course the testis has got 46 chromosome, but that is true for any other cell of the body. 46 chromosome is present in every cell of the male and every cell of the female body. Abhi, I also want to find out that what would happen to this cell when it undergoes the process of meiosis. What happens to this cell when it undergoes the process of meiosis? How many cells should it form? How many cells should it form? 4. If a cell has to undergo the process of meiosis, it should form 4 cells. Okay, let us see how would it form 4 cells and what would be the number of the chromosome, that also we are trying to understand. So it will result in the formation of 4 cells. That's by the rule of meiosis that we understand. And if I talk about the chromosome number, what should be the chromosome number? Just half. So what it should be? 23 each. So in this case, you have already studied that if it is a case of meiosis and the process of division is very elaborate and at the end the chromosome number is just the half, then it should be something like A plus X or A plus Y. So there will be actually 2 types of cells. Number is 4, but types of cells will be 2. Half of the cells will be having A plus X and another half will be having A plus Y. So there are 50% cells A plus X and another 50% A plus Y. Yes or no? But total number of chromosomes will be what? How many autosomes will be there? हर एक cell में how many autosomes will be there? 22 plus 1. है ना? Sex chromosome only 1. So 22 plus 1, 22 plus 1, 22 plus 1. So this is what I am talking about as the male gametes. So now if I have to talk about, yes, these are the male gametes by the process of meiosis that are formed, and these are what we talk about as the sperms, the male gametes formed by the process of meiosis. So when a cell of the testis undergo the process of division, then how many types of gametes are formed? 2 types of gametes are formed. 2 types of gametes are formed. No? So when we are talking about 2 types of gametes, this is what is known as heterogamous or 2 types of gametes. No, we talk about 2 different types of gametes. So we would say the type of gametes formed are 2. Heterogamous. But if I have to talk about a cell of the ovary, will the story remain the same? No, the story will be a little bit different. Okay, I start the same way. Number of autosomes is the same. What should I write here now? I should write X and X. And the number remains same, but. And now I am talking about a cell of the ovary here. I am talking about the female parent. I am talking about a cell of the ovary. Then when this cell is undergoing the process of meiosis, exactly the same concept here also. When this cell is undergoing the process of meiosis, now how many cells should be formed? Here also 4 cells should be formed. But there is a little bit of a difference, I understand. That out of these 4 cells, 1 cell is comparatively much bigger. And the rest 3 cells are smaller cells. 1 cell is comparatively much bigger and the other 3 cells are smaller cells. So this big cell is actually the functional gamete and the rest 3 are not. In case of the number, first of all let us write down the number. Will the number differ? No, the number remains exactly the same. 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 Always to remember this. So every cell will have the same 23 chromosome, but even then, these 3 cells which are actually known as polar bodies, since they have a scanty amount of cytoplasm, they cannot act as functional gametes. Because in the long run, when we talk about the process of fertilization, it is actually this cell which will fuse with this, and it is actually this cell which will actually get transformed into the zygote. So in the process of fertilization, always it is true that actually the female gamete should have the maximum amount of cytoplasm, because cytoplasm is nothing but the reserve food. And the male gamete, as it is, has got small amount of cytoplasm, no? Because the male gamete is comparatively very small. The male gamete is very small, the amount of cytoplasm is as it is less. So during the process of fertilization, the female gamete actually does not get any cytoplasm from the male gamete, but it only takes the chromosomes, that's it. It only takes the chromosome. So that means if I have to talk about a process of fertilization between these two, what should I understand? I should understand that ये जो cytoplasm है intact रहता है. Does it get any cytoplasm from the male cell? Nothing. Then what does it take from the male cell? Only the chromosomes. It will only take the chromosomes from the male cell. Okay, I talk about this type of a fertilization between the male gamete containing the X chromosome. And what should be the number of chromosomes back again? It should be 46 back again. This cell, after the process of fertilization, is something that we have to name it as zygote. This is the one which will give rise to a full developed organism by the process of cell division later. So this cell should have an adequate amount of cytoplasm, because that cytoplasm is going to act as a reserve food, ताकि at least about 8 to 10 cycles of cell division हो सके. Because this embryo later has to get attached to the uterine wall. But uterine wall में attachment के लिए थोड़ा सा time रहता है. So during that particular period of time before this makes an attachment with the uterine wall, this cytoplasm is going to help in the process of cell division. That's the reason these are not functional gametes. By chance से fertilization हो भी जाता है, this zygote, if at all it gets formed, this zygote may not continue the process of cell division for a long time, because it has got very less amount of cytoplasm and nutrients reserved in it. Am I clear? So now, then what is the difference? ऐसा क्यों होता है? Now that is the question, that you are talking about the process of meiosis both in the plant and the both in the testes and the ovary. But why in case of the testes the division is this way, and why in the case of ovary the division is this way? That is what it happens. When I talk about the process of division in the testis cell, the nuclear and the cytoplasmic division both are happening evenly. The nuclear content also gets evenly distributed, and the cytoplasmic content also gets evenly distributed. But when it is a concept of the cell of the ovary, the nuclear content gets evenly distributed in all the 4 cells, but the cytoplasm all comes concentrated in one cell, and the rest 3 gets very small amount of cytoplasm. Now, you may, at this point, if I have to talk about that, there are concepts of twins, etc., etc. Baaki different concept hai. But if at all we come to understand right at this moment a basic thing like that, then how are those concepts of twins and all? Ek to hai कि today, if I talk about a fertilization between these two happening, today it is possible to sustain that zygote with advanced medical facility. That is there. But yes, it is normally generally not possible. Normally, if at all a fusion between these two happens in a zygote, normally it will not sustain. The only reason is this will not have adequate amount of cytoplasm to carry on the process of cell division. But it has. This has. So our body is the entire structural pattern is nothing but a miracle when we talk about. When we are talking about the entire internal structure, the planning is as good to understand any particular process. That why should the female body produce one gamete only at a time? Because that gamete should have maximum amount of cytoplasm stored in it, which should be able to support cell division for a long time, so that the entire organism may be developed properly. Okay, that we'll talk about later when we are talking about the chapter on reproduction. So what are we trying to understand? We are trying to understand that if it is a cell of the testis, then what? And if it is a cell of the ovary, then what? So from here you understand that the male cell produces two types of gametes. Male cell produces two types of gametes, and what about the female cell? Produces only one type of gamete. The female cell is producing only one type of gamete. No, all the gametes are with X chromosomes. Male, half X chromosomes and half Y chromosomes. Now, what I already showed you. So that means when I talk about the type of gamete, here you tell me how many types of gametes? Male, how many types of gametes? Types, how many? Two types. So since it is two types, we will draw this. Why did I erase the other two? Because they are actually representing the four numbers. But when we try to study this topic, we are not interested about the number, but we are actually interested about the type. So when the male cell undergoes the process of meiosis, two types of gametes are formed. When the female cell undergoes the process of meiosis, gamete formation, how many types of gametes are formed? One type, all of the same type. So better I would write only one like this. Only one. This also is correct. In this concept of sex determination that we are trying to understand now, a male cell always produces two types of gamete, the male reproductive cell, and the female cell produces only one type of gamete. So you are supposed to write only the type here right now. Then I showed you that if this is a fertilization between this gamete, okay, now let me just change here. If this is a fertilization between this gamete and this gamete, then this is what the zygote will be. Yes or no? This is what the zygote will be. And if I have to show a fertilization between this and this, then what will the situation be? It will be something like this, where I have to write A plus X and Y. What about the number of the chromosome? The number of the chromosome will be the same, 46. Now this is also a zygote, but since I have to talk about the concept of sex determination, I also have to understand that this zygote will actually give rise to what later? By the process of cell division and embryo formation. What will this zygote give rise to? It will give rise to a female child. Because it is the females only who are having X chromosome in double doses. And what will this zygote give rise to? It will give rise to a male child. It will give rise to a male child because we had already come across, if it is the male, the 23rd chromosome is going to be this way. If it is the female, the 23rd chromosome is going to be this way. So now, what is this going to give rise to? This will give rise to a female offspring. Offspring means the next generation. And what will this give rise to? It will give rise to a male offspring. So now, when we are talking about the concept of sex determination, what are we understanding here? That if the fertilization happens between an X-carrying male gamete and the ovum, is it necessary to write X-carrying ovum? No, because if I talk about the female gamete, all female gametes are having X chromosomes only. There are no two types or three types that we can ever talk about. No. So female gamete, matlab, it is understood that it is only X-carrying types. But yes, male gametes are of two types, X-carrying or the Y-carrying. So if the X-carrying gamete fuses with the ovum, then a female offspring will be formed. If the Y-carrying sperm fuses with the ovum, then a male offspring will be formed. So this is what is the basic concept of sex determination. Now in this case, if I talk about a basic concept of if I talk about a basic concept of, say suppose there had been so many olden days belief or myth, if I talk about, where it is believed that the female can regulate the process of formation of a male or female, or it is the male who are responsible for the formation of a male or a female child. So is that true? When we understand this process, once we are clear about this process, we are very much sure that in the entire process of formation of a male or a female progeny, is the female anyway responsible, or is there anything that the female can voluntarily do anything about it? No. Can the male voluntarily do anything about it? Can the males voluntarily do anything about it? No, because this matter of fertilization is just a chance. The process of fertilization inside the body is just a matter of chance. Even though the male body produces two types of gamete, no, the male body cannot regulate the process of fertilization. No, the process of fertilization is nothing regulated by the male, neither by the female, though it is happening in the female body, and though the males are producing two types of gametes, the process of fertilization can not be regulated by none of these genders. So when we are talking about that, say suppose you get certain times questions like this, that a female gives birth to 3 daughters consecutively, 3 female children consecutively. So what is the chance? What is the probability that the female will give rise to, or what is the probability that the female will give rise to a male child in the 4th conception? What will be the probability? Listen to my question again. I said a female gave birth to 3 female offspring. A female gave birth to 3 female offsprings consecutively. What is the probability that she will again give rise, or she will again give birth to a female offspring in the 4th conception? 50%. Because whether the fertilization will give rise to a female or male always is 50%, no? Are you understanding? Whether the fertilization will happen between this or this, or this or this, 50% ही है ना? आ रहा है समझ में? It's only 50%. This also may fertilize, this also may fertilize. The male will produce only these 2 types. Now during the process of fertilization, इसके साथ भी fertilization हो सकता है, इसके साथ भी fertilization हो सकता है. So what is the chance when you are asked these questions in the paper? Chance कितना है? What is the probability? 50%. ये भी हो सकता है, ये भी हो सकता है. So these are some typical questions that you get. Now write down this exactly the way I have written down. Sex determination. Put the heading here. Sex determination. Sex determination. Neatly this flow chart you'll have to draw. Okay, here as you draw this side, certain steps now we have to write here. Certain steps we will write here. Parent cells exactly in the same line. Gametes. Gametes. Progeny. Parents, gametes, and the first generation, progeny. This is how we will write it up. The way you write should be very neat. When you are circling them, when you are encircling what you are writing, inside what you write should be clearly visible. Explain sex determination with the help of a flow chart. So this is a flow chart that you have to draw. Done?
Can we draw such a thing and I do
करो बट एग्जाम में नहीं करना है. Fast. That's a simple thing that you have to write down. Fatafat. Okay. So that was the concept of sex determination that we studied. Sex determination. You get various questions on this. You have to just this concept you'll have to remember. That what is the probability, certain type of questions we'll do later once you're already through with the concept of dominant recessive genes also. So first is this one where you understand what is meant by determination of sex and what are the parameters, what are the factors which are responsible for the determination of the sex. Now, next that we try understanding would be a concept of genes, alleles, dominant recessive concepts. Now, when we are talking about the chromosomes, with reference to the chromosomes, we come across that with reference to the chromosomes, now if we try understanding that what is there inside, already, as you already know, that what is the chromosome made up of, what is the basic composition of the chromosome? DNA. What is the chromosome made up of? DNA. So basic. So if I have to understand that what is there inside the chromosome, I am very much sure that the chromosome has this double helical structure that we always consider as the complex macromolecule, and this is what we talk about as DNA. Now, for a pair of chromosomes, how many DNA molecule? 2 DNA molecule. I am talking about this present in one. So in this also there is one more. So now, when I am talking about this DNA molecule or every single DNA molecule, we would say that the DNA molecule has got functional segments, and these functional segments are known as the genes. This already with the last chapter also you have studied that what are genes? Genes are functional segments of the DNA that can regulate a particular character. Genes are segments of the DNA that can regulate a particular character. What are the 3 types of characters I say? One is the external morphological character, the shape, size, body parts, etc. Second, the physiological character, the pigment, enzyme, hormone, okay. Third is the behavioral character about our specific typical nature, behaviors, our likes, dislikes, etc. etc. So yes, every particular character that we show, that may be in the form of a structure of an organ, part of a body, that may be in the amount of the enzyme hormone produced by our body, that may be in the form of our likes, dislikes, etc., etc. So all these are because of the arrangement of the genes that we have in our chromosomes. Now, when I try to understand that how are these genes arranged, in a pair of chromosomes, to make it simple, I may just try to show that in the form of a pair of sticks like this. In the form of a pair of sticks, what does these sticks but represent? They represent a pair of chromosomes. And it is understood that inside every chromosome there is a DNA molecule. So we are actually talking about a pair of sticks representing a pair of chromosome or a pair of DNA. This chromosome means inside it is DNA only, no? And we are not talking about that in that DNA, the sections which are known as genes and what type of characters they regulate. First of all, I say that this is a pair of chromosome where this is a gene located here, there is a gene located here, there is a gene located here, there is a gene located here, a gene here, a gene here. Meaning, I said that when I talk about this DNA, I said this is a section which regulates a character. Say suppose I'm saying that this is a segment of the DNA which is regulating the height. So this is what I'm representing as a dot here. Am I clear? This segment that I have drawn, this is what I am representing as a dot here. Same like this as here. This one here. Is it understood? So of course the chromosomes are in pairs, so I have to draw two at a time. So this is why I am drawing two at a time. This is why I am drawing two at a time. Why do we draw two? Because chromosomes are always paired. Chromosomes are never single. So this is the reason why we always draw two sticks to represent this concept, because chromosomes are always paired. And why do we mark these regions as genes? Because we understand that हर एक chromosome के अंदर DNA है and DNA का हर एक segment को we have to name them as genes. So that is why the method of representation this way. Now next is what? Okay, we are talking about that this is a gene, this is a gene, this is a gene. Now that we are talking about this gene, now what next? We try understanding that this particular gene is what? It is a particular chemical composition. No, now you already know that this may have a separate arrangement of nucleotides, a separate arrangement of a base and a phosphate and a pentose sugar, a separate arrangement of a base and a pentose and a phosphate. So this is what we are talking about. There are differences. No, there are differences. In this case, when we try to look into a pair of chromosomes this way, what happened?
So that is like
Have water. Dekho. So now, when we are talking about this, अरे तुमको क्या हो गया? ये वायरल इन्फेक्शन है. एक को देखा तो दूसरा शुरू हो जाता है. So now when we are talking about this, a pair of chromosomes, and this is what we are talking about as genes. Now, say suppose I talk about this pair of chromosome and this is the region where a pair of genes are present. Then what is this region where the genes are present? Genes again I refer a specific chemical composition. Just now I said, why are we talking about this segment as gene? Because it has got a specific combination of A and T or nucleotide bases, etc. That way. So this region where the genes are located in a chromosome, this is known as the gene locus. Locus. What is meant by locus? The region where the gene is present in a chromosome. The region where a gene is present. मतलब हर एक जगह पे तो gene नहीं है ना. All through the DNA, the entire region is not gene, but certain segments of the DNA are genes which are regulating a character. So, what is a locus? What do we understand by this word locus? What is a gene locus? The region where the genes are present. The regions in the chromosome where the genes are present. Where the genes are present. So, first of all, we try understanding that a locus would refer to what? Now, next is after this concept of locus, you are again to understand that yes, every pair of chromosome will have two gene locus where two respective genes are there. Two respective genes are there. Now, when I talk about how do we represent a gene, either by a number or a letter, I may represent a gene something this way in one chromosome, and in the other chromosome, I may represent either the same way or some other way. What does this mean? This means I may say that this gene capital B is responsible for maybe the brown color of the eye. Responsible for the brown color of the eye. And the other gene, this form when I write, meaning to understand that there's a difference in the chemical composition. So this form when I write small b, I have written, this is responsible for the blue color of the eye. So ultimately I'm trying to bring in this concept that whenever you talk about a pair of chromosome, the two opposite gene loci, these are called plural. When I talk about, these are called gene loci. So now I'm saying that in a pair of chromosome, the two gene locations, the two gene loci may have the same chemical composition. Meaning I could have written this also. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. But I chose to write this way. I want to write this way so that I can explain a concept much better. So I'm saying in a pair of chromosomes, the two gene loci may have the same gene or contrasting gene. Contrasting भी हो सकता है. So एक gene, one particular gene, we know that yes, it is regulating the brown color of the eye, and the other gene we know that it is regulating the blue color of the eye. So now that I'm talking about that, what are these brown and blue? What do we talk about this as? Brown and blue are forms of a character, no? This brown and blue that I'm talking about, what are we talking about? I'm saying the forms of a character which are known as traits. And which is the character I'm talking about? I'm talking about the character that is eye color. So eye color is the character that I'm talking about. And what are the forms of the eye color? I'm talking about the brown and the blue. So now I'm saying the brown or the blue that I'm talking about are the forms of the character, hence they are known as traits. So first of all, I pick up this very simple example saying that in the human population, we come across three major types of eye color: brown, black, blue, the normal eye colors, no? And out of this, which is the eye color we get to see most commonly found in the population? Brown. अब सबके आँख में झांक झांक के देखना किसका black. Majorly, you will find people have got brown eye color. Out of 20 individuals, you will always come across maybe around 7-8 of them will be having brown, and another maybe 7-8 of them, or maybe with lesser, may have black, or even 2-3 of them may have blue. काफी बार blue नहीं भी हो सकता है. Maybe out of 20 individuals, you may come across 12 of them are having brown, and the rest 7-8 all black. Blue very less in a population. Why the reason that way? That also we are going to come across. That first of all, I said in a pair of chromosome, whenever you talk about a segment, how many gene locus? 2 gene locus. So दोनों gene locus में this is the first and this is the second. तो 2 gene locus में 2 gene होगा. Sometimes they may be this way. Sometimes they may be this way also. Sometimes they may be this way also. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. This way also they may be there. So now, what are we saying? If this is the arrangement, let us now try to find out. If this is the arrangement of the genes in a pair of chromosomes, then what is the color of the eye of this individual supposed to be? The color of the eye of this individual is supposed to be brown. What about this one? This one. What will be the color of the eye of this individual? This individual is also supposed to be brown-eyed. So sad. Then how will be a person blue-eyed? A person will be blue-eyed only if the person is this way. Both the chromosomes should have an arrangement something this way. Then only the person will be blue-eyed. Understood? Then what are we trying to come across? We are trying to come across that whenever we talk about two types of chemical composition, something that we call it as gene. A gene may have two or more types of similar compositions. A gene, this is a segment which is a gene which is regulating the eye color as a character, I said. So now I am saying that a segment of the chromosome, this is responsible, or now I say this, a segment of the chromosome is responsible for the eye color. So we are very much sure that this gene is regulating the character eye color. But किसी के क्रोमोसोम पेयर में ऐसा है, किसी के क्रोमोसोम पेयर में ऐसा है, तो किसी के क्रोमोसोम पेयर में ऐसा है. Which we have understood that अगर ऐसा है तो eye color is brown. If it is this way, eye color is brown. If it is this way, eye color is blue. We would say now that this gene has variable forms. One type is this and another type is this. A gene may have variable forms. अभी यहाँ पे forms मतलब different chemical composition, little bit of difference in the chemical composition. Otherwise, we always know the DNA is nothing but a molecule, no? The DNA is nothing but a molecule which is made up of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogenous bases, pentose, sugar. वही जो combination थोड़ा difference है. That is what we are talking about, the different forms of a gene. The different forms of a gene. Then what are these different forms of a gene known as? The different forms of a gene are known as alleles. I'll come back to this again. What I started saying. I said if it is a pair of chromosome, a segment of a chromosome, say the other way, a segment of a DNA may be responsible for a character. But every character that we human populations show, every character that we humans show is not only in one form, is in multiple different forms. For example, I talk about the hair texture as a character. Do we all have the same type of hair texture? No. Different forms. Skin color, a character. Do we all have the same skin color? No, forms are there. No? So many forms are there. So many shades of skin color there. Eye color, already gave the example. Height, so many different variations in the height we come across. So these are just basic examples to understand. You will come across, we human, we show minor differences. Very simple, very interesting to understand when we are talking about the texture of the skin, the shape of our eyebrows, lashes, windows pick, etc. So many, the hairline. Forget about the internal characters to mention. There are so many differences. We talk about that, yes, each one of us, we produce hemoglobin in the RBC. The number of the RBC, the amount of the hemoglobin, the amount of the enzyme, all different in all of us. All different in all of us. Why is it not the same? Because we don't have the same forms of the gene in both the chromosomes. Agar same form hota sabke chromosome, then all of us, we would have been of the same height, would have been of the same color, would have been having the same eye color. तो उसको ढूंढना भी नहीं पड़ता ना किसका ब्लैक है किसका ब्राउन. Then you would be having the same hair texture, सब same होता, but we belong to a same species, but फिर भी ये जो छोटा differences है, minor differences that are there, which is responsible for the small changes that we show in our characters. So I come back to this again saying that whenever I'm talking about eye color as a character, it is regulated by a gene. But that gene has variable forms. Kaise? How do we know that? Because this again has got variable forms. So this eye color has got variable forms. And what are the variable forms? We already know that it has got variable forms like brown, black and blue. So isse ye samajh mein aata hai that this gene If this character has got variable forms, then this gene, which is the main gene, also should have variable forms. Then which are the variable forms? ये एक है, and this is the other one. But out of this, now I have used only these and these as an example. Now I'm saying, if a person has got both chromosomes में capital B obvious है, the person's eye color is brown. But ऐसा क्यों? One chromosome में B है, दूसरे में small b है. Why I write these letters? Because genes are majorly described in the or expressed in the form of letters या तो numbers में. So I choose these numbers, letters. So now I'm saying if a person has got capital B in one and small b in the other, then why the color brown? Because ये जो composition है, this is more powerful a composition. What happens if two friends, one very meek and humble and the other one is too smart and every time talking in the class? तो क्या होता है क्लास में? That other one is constantly talking and the other friend, the talkative friend is always subsiding the friend who is meek and humble, है ना? ऐसा होता है कि नहीं? It's always there. अभी तक you have not got accustomed to this bell. Make your heart stronger. So now when we are talking about these two friends, the two friends, out of these two friends, this is very talkative and this is very meek and humble. So who is going to be always prominent? This one, no? This one will be always prominent, no? The teacher will always take a note of this child. So and this bichara will always remain silent. So this is what? A gene or a form of a gene. What is the forms of gene known as? Alleles. A gene has multiple forms, but a form which is always expressing is a dominant allele. And the form which always remains suppressed is a recessive allele. We'll learn many more things on this in the next lecture.